Today we're in Hanslope and we're just approaching the church St James the Great. It's got the biggest spire in Northamptonshire, or it did have until the spire collapsed in 1804. There was a big storm and it was rebuilt 20 foot lower than the original one. But it's huge, you can see it from miles around. The church, the earliest parts date from 1160, and it's got a huge graveyard with some interesting stories in. Try and track down the graves that I'm going to be talking about. Here's the church. Just about managed to get the steeple on in its full glory. It really is quite unusual for all the villages around these parts. I've not been able to find these particular graves, but I'll keep looking. Alexander Mackay, he was 26 when he was killed in a bare knuckle fight in Southsea Forest. Squire Watts, who was from Hanslope Park, which we'll talk about later, he was the 21st of July 1912. He'd been to the church here and he was returning, walking back to his house, almost there, and he was shot dead by the gamekeeper, William Farrow, who was then found nearby in a little wood, and he'd shot himself. Squire Watts was greatly liked. He was a wonderful landlord. Everyone in the village benefited from him, really. He looked after his locals, and he was 67. There was questions at the time, had it been an accident or was there a reason that the gamekeeper shot him? The speculation was that he'd been given his notice for heavy drinking and he'd become depressed, and that's why he shot Squire Watts, but I don't suppose we'll ever know. I found the grave of William Farrow, the gamekeeper. He was, at the time, he wasn't able to be buried in the graveyard because, having committed suicide, that was a criminal offence. So he was buried at the other side of the ditch, while Squire Watts was buried inside the graveyard. But many years after that, the ditch was taken up, and so William Farrow is now in the graveyard. It says he was 45 years old, 21st of July 1912, and it says on it, waiting until all shall be revealed. So we'll know the mystery then. Hanslope Park was the ancestral home, there's the huge church, of the Squire of Hanslope. The Watts family had held the title for 3 generations. It was 2,000 acres. But in World War II it was requisitioned by the War Office, the Radio Secret Service, and it's still now a branch of the Foreign Office. I'll show you where it is later. We're just crossing the main road now through the village, and this is the Maltings farmhouse, which has been here since 1624, and we're just going up this road now a little way towards Newport Pagnell and Olney. The village hall, 1840, built with money given to the village by the Watts family. There's lots of these little information boards around the village. There's the, looks like a really old way marker, doesn't it? There's another view of the maltings, the date plaque, and over there, this is called Gold Street. That used to be the blacksmith's forge. And we're just going along Gold Street to Market Square now. The Gospel Hall, 1809, and next door to it, Chapel House, which must have been where the minister used to live. And next to it here we have the Butcher's, which is still going strong, has a good reputation locally, I believe. And there's a butcher's been there for years, and they used to slaughter the animals on the premises at the back. And here's one of the many thatched cottages in the village. And we're now going over here to Market Square. In the Market Square there's this lovely terrace of cottages called Horseshoe Cottages, and this building here used to be the Green Man pub. It's now called Green Manor. There used to be 12 pubs in the village. Now there's only 2, and the club, so maybe 3. But we'll try and have a look for where other potential pubs were. There's the Green Manor and the church. This is Stafford House, which in the 16th century was the home of Sir and Lady Pierpoint, who are buried in the graveyard. Then in the 18th century it became the workhouse, and here next door to it we have somewhere called the Old Cobblers. There's a sign, and it's got one of those insurance fire signs above it as well, number 2557. And next to that there's a little building that says Old Fairings. I think Fairings was something to do with horses, I'm not sure. So that's that row there. This is called the Club. Looks like it's taken on several buildings, and it's been there for many years. I'm not sure whether you have to be a member to join it or if it's just another name for a pub. So across the road here we've got somewhere called the Old Bakehouse, and there that's called the Little Ovens. And I think that building must have been a pub at some time. In fact, I think it might have been the site of the Cock Inn originally. We'll go and have a closer look. So here's the old, well, the bakehouse, and I would assume this is something to do with it if it's called the Little Ovens. Yes, this plaque here is telling us that this was originally the site of the Cock Inn, which has now been rebuilt up there. I think we can tell that that must have been a pub at one stage. Definitely looking a bit shabby now. And then here we've got the Wesleyan Chapel. I think John Wesley actually preached here at one stage. Oh yes, it tells us there. Another little info plaque. According to the information board, this used to be the New Inn. so many pubs, isn't there? And down at the end is the Watts Arms, which was obviously named after the Squire Watts. The information board around there is telling us that this used to be the Old Cock, number 16 and 18. So I don't quite know which to believe, but either way, there was a pub there and a pub there. And now the Cock is here. 1930, well, in the 1930s this was built. Looks like it's having a huge refurbishment. There's workmen and chairs coming in and out. A closer view of the Watts Arms. Unfortunately closed now with the virus. And that road down there goes to Castlethorpe, and we're going back along the high street now, and then after we've had a look at the old telephone exchange, we'll drive down to where Hanslope Park is. Not very exciting really, a normal spar shop, but it was built in 1921 as the telephone exchange. Incorrect information again. The Spar wasn't the telephone exchange, this was. Still going as a newsagent. Looks very quirky, doesn't it? And it's got this little blue plaque here. It's interesting. This is lovely, isn't it? On this site, September the 5th, 1782, nothing happened. And there's a great little, don't know, is it a gargoyle? Sort of a dog dragon up here. Hang on, I don't want to fall over. There we are. We're just on now, it's called Long Street Road. It's the road out of Hanslope up towards Ashwell, and this is a pub called the Globe Inn, which looks like it's been closed for a bit. It was the scene of a murder in 2010. Let's have a look inside. No, we can't see anything. A bit of a domestic ensued, and a man was shot. It's a bit like one of those Midsummer Murders towns, isn't it, Hanslope, with all these murders. And then next door here is some building works going on, which is quite intriguing because that says the Globe Inn car park, so, but these look like houses, so whether it's going to be, whether it was intended to be a new Globe Inn, or whether that was the car park for the Globe Inn and these are houses on it. I can't see them building another one when this one hasn't really been in use for a while. This is what Hanslope Park House looked like. It may still look similar, but now it's surrounded by all sorts of strange buildings, and I thought it best, I did drive up to it, but thought it best not to linger taking a video because there was lots of security patrols, floodlights, barriers, people working on the outside of the buildings. You can't actually see the old house from the road. There is a footpath all the way round it, which I walked in the summer. It was built in 1692 and the Watts family bought it in 1764. The War Office requisitioned it in the Second World War, and it's still owned by them now and still used as a branch of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Alan Turing worked there in the war, because it's quite close to Bletchley. So that's the end of our ramble on today. Thank you for joining me, and you can either like or subscribe, and I'll see you again next time. Thank you. Bye.